Right then, this is a quick road test video, and this is for a Lexus IS 250, and it's the top of the range SEL model. This particular car is registered GY57NPK, and mileage at the start of this road test is 69,954 miles. Just to briefly explain, the reason for doing the videos is not just to put them on YouTube. It's actually for the benefit of people who are actually looking to buy the car. We want customers who are looking at this car in an advert online to actually see the very car they're looking at in the advert actually in operation. That way, if there's any issues with the vehicle, we can and we will relay them back to you. It's the very reason for doing these videos. It's also done on these lovely quiet country roads very close to our premises, so should be representative of what you feel yourself if offered a test drive on the car. Worth pointing out, it's now just gone 5 o'clock, so effectively it's rush hour, but you'll hardly see a car on the road test. We're very well aware that lots of our customers come from not just within a few miles of us, but all over the UK and Europe as well, so the least we can do is go to the time and effort to do this for you. So coming to the car itself, as you'll know from reading the advert, hopefully the car's been extraordinarily well looked after. All of its servicing, apart from the very last one done by ourselves, has been done by the Lexus main dealers. And I have to say, without wishing to be a spoiler, the car feels like it. I mean, it just feels absolutely, it's cliched as it said, virtually as new to drive. It is in wonderful condition mechanically, certainly. So going through the car, engine starts first press of the button, settles to completely smooth, even idle. It's just a glorious engine, it really is. It's so civilized, so smooth, incredibly quiet unless you really push hard down on the throttle, and then you get this wonderful V6 kind of wail comes through. It's really is a stunning engine to sit behind and operate. And of course, being a Lexus, they're pretty much bomb-proof reliable as well. But it's the power delivery. It's just so smooth, linear, pulls all the way through the rev range absolutely beautifully. But a fantastic engine. Worth pointing out, there's absolutely no warning lights on the dashboard at all relating to the engine or any other part of the car for that matter. Temperature gauge running between sort of half and a third, which is exactly where it should be on a Lexus car of this type as well, by the way. Engine then feeds through into the automatic gearbox, and it really is a wonderfully smooth gearbox, and it's perfectly matched the engine. The gear ratios Lexus have chosen are absolutely ideal to exploit two things: one, the performance of the car, but also the economy as well, sort of maximizes that for you. And they do a very good job of it, because if you're leaden footed, of course you will use a fair amount of fuel, but if you're not, you can actually get very good economy out of these cars, and I've had a couple, so I know exactly what they're capable of doing. But the gear change itself is just typically Lexus. It's silky smooth, very quick to change gear as well. It's just another fantastic gearbox. Obviously, as with all gearboxes, you should still do the fundamental checks. Just make sure there's no sort of thunks or clumps in engagements or delays, and make sure that even when hot or cold, the gear changes are exactly the same, and this one's no different in that respect. You can use it in a sport mode as well, or a manual mode rather. Pull the gear lever to the right hand side. It's now selected me 4th gear to match the forward speed I'm going at. To go up the gears, just nudge it forward and then pull it back to go down the gears, or you can use the paddles here. Right hand one goes up the gears, left hand one goes down the gears, and it's a really lovely setup actually, and it does help if you're doing an overtaking maneuver like now. You can hold in gear as long as you want it to, rather than the gearbox suddenly changing up halfway through a maneuver. What's nice about these paddles as well, they actually feel nice when you operate them. They don't feel horrible and plasticky, and they're shaped nicely as well. But in fairness, they rarely get used, but just to show you the functions working as they should. But in terms of the powertrain of the vehicle just feels absolutely superb. It really does. Steering on the car is a real strong point on these Lexus. It's got a lovely steering rack, just the right amount of turns lock to lock to be sharp enough to give you kind of a sporty feel to it, but without being overly sensitive, which makes it unsettling to drive. It tracks absolutely bullet straight, and there's no vibrations at all that come back through the steering wheel, and it feels like new in hand as well. It just feels totally crisp and tight. It's also perfectly suited to the chassis, as I said, and the chassis itself, I'll get the boring stuff out of the way first. What I'm looking for on road tests is any kind of clonks or bangs when it goes over the bumps. You'll hear it hitting a bump, although it is very subdued in these cars, but there's no metallic noises coming up through at all. The chassis itself, I just think they've just done a really fantastic job on it, in all honesty, because different things to different people. That's the long and short of it. If you're in the marketplace for this type and size of car, and certainly this sort of quality of car, most people are looking at things like 3 Series BMW, Audi A4, Mercedes C-Class, possibly some Volvo product. But I just think they've got a lovely compromise with the car. It isn't as sporting as a 3 Series. I'm not going to pretend it is for a second. 3 Series is a mighty fine car. What a 3 Series can't do with any kind of sporty suspension is ride the kind of sharp ridges and bumps that this one does, because it is brilliant, absolutely brilliant at its the way it rides the sort of sharper ridges. It does a fantastic job on it. The closest to it in reality I would suggest would be something like a C-Class Mercedes, which is a lovely riding car, but it isn't quite as nimble as the Lexus, and it feels more unwieldy through the steering and slightly more ponderous. The advantage of the C-Class, this and the 3 Series, of course, is the fact that they are rear-wheel drive, so you get this lovely steering and lovely balance to it. And unfortunately, the A4, as nice as it is to drive, it is rather one-dimensional, and it feels far more nose-heavy by comparison. But this is just a really lovely setup. It really is. They've just done a super job on it. Brakes, by the way, just give them a nice shove now. Work absolutely beautifully. There's what I'm looking for, and the braking system on a road test, generally speaking, is whether you've got any pulsing coming through the brake pedal, or any vibrations at all, and also that does the brakes to bring the car down straight, doesn't veer violently left or right, and it does all of those absolutely perfectly. Coming to the interior of the car, what these videos cannot get over is just how astonishingly well built this car is. We're looking at a car now that's 12 years old, and yet to drive it, it not only feels like new inside, it looks like new inside, but there's no creaks, there's no rumbles, there's nothing at all. I mean, this is real world build quality. This isn't, motoring magazines having a drive in one when they're absolutely brand new, and of course they all feel well built then. This is, the real world of motoring, where there are a few thousand miles on a clock, and it has been over the roads for many, many years. And this is it just shows what a premium product this really is. Also, looking around inside the car, it's a gorgeous place to sit. The colour combination for this car, really sought after as well. It's very warming, it's very rich in texture and look, and the contrast between the silver, the wood in the middle, the lighter cream leather here, and the black of the upper dash just works really well, whereas in some cars it just doesn't. It can look quite tacky, but this looks fantastic in the car. And it's in stunning condition in here. It's one of the very, very best we've ever had internally. It's just a lovely car, all working absolutely perfectly, of course. Sat nav, because it's not standard on the car, it's obviously an option. All working perfectly. The rear camera works absolutely perfectly. Heated and cooled seats on the SELs, again, all either ice cold or red hot, whichever one you want them to be. and all working exactly as they should. In fact, every button that you can possibly press in the car, everything is working perfectly. But it's just a great driving position and environment. Everything falls close to hand. The quality of the switchgear is extraordinary. Just every button you press has a very, very high quality actuation to it. Dials in front of me look expensive. I mean, they just look very classy, very simple, but the way they've done the graphics and the labelling is just absolutely perfect on there. Steering wheel looks and feels as new in hand as well. It's a fantastic condition there. And if you like your music, the Mark Levinson stereo system is astonishing in terms of its sound reproduction. Helped no doubt by the fact that you've got such a quiet car, so it's not having to fight against other noises coming into the vehicle. But anyone looking for a very high quality car, you'd be so happy in one of these. Its biggest advantage actually over all the aforementioned cars is its reliability. I mean, they are in a different league when it comes to day-to-day reliability and longevity as well. They are, plenty of people who've got BMWs and Mercedes have not had any faults with them, but unfortunately there's rather too many that have had quite a lot, whereas it is much, much, much rarer with Lexus. And that's not to say they can't or don't go wrong, because of course they do, but it is much rarer, as I said. Basically, as I said at the start of the video, the point of it is to pick up any issues. There's nothing. It drives absolutely perfectly. It really does. And whoever is lucky enough to get this car will be driving a really fine vehicle. Having said that, if I've missed anything on the video, please obviously don't hesitate, do give us a call.